Oh my god.
I'm already crying.
It's gonna be another one of them episodes. Sorry, guys. Nick isn't here to keep us in line.
Help.
As you see, we have no green screen. There was a special request for us to bring out the skeleton.
It was me.
And which actually, it goes along with what we're talking about today, about when science catches up with all the woo-woo stuff.
Yeah, which it's been doing a lot lately, and I was thinking about this because there have been a lot of different things that we've known for however long, just because we learned it as yoga teachers, that now we're kind of getting, they're getting attention. Dang. I don't think that's how bones should work. Oh, jeez. Okay, carry on. So...
It's been getting a lot of attention lately. Did you say that?
Yoga, mindfulness,
yes.
meditation, all of these things have been getting more attention because we have seen what it looks like in the brain when people do these things. So we were talking about before we started, we've mentioned it on the, on the
so
podcast a bunch of times, the monk that they put in an fMRI machine. And there's a new docu-series on Netflix now about the brain, and there was an episode where they interviewed him and they showed him hooked up to all the little whatever the things are,
nodes,
the little nodes, and they were able to find that the part of the brain responsible for compassion lit up like crazy when they put him in there, which made me think, as a yogi and as somebody that has studied Buddhism, he probably went in there, if I had to bet money, which I wouldn't bet money in it because that would be weird, he probably went in there and was doing metta meditation.
Yeah.
Like, I would almost like guarantee you, because if he was just to go in there and maybe focus on his breath, that could do it, but I don't know. Like, I bet if he already knows metta, if he's like a Tibetan monk, he probably went in and was just like, I'm gonna do metta.
I think that actually you're right, because I think that he was discussed in the book, can you read that? The, A Fearless Heart.
A Fearless Heart.
Yeah. So I think that he was discussed in A Fearless Heart, and I think that's what he said, was that he did go in and practice metta.
I would, if that's not what it says,
it was either that or Tonglen, one of the two.
I would bet money, yeah, that it's one of those two, because they did not talk about that in the documentary or the interview with him.
Which is too bad.
Which is too bad. So they just did this kind of like broad
generic
meditation is the thing. But we now, even just within the context of meditation, I've seen recent studies and recent articles specifically digging into loving kindness meditation and metta meditation, not just to build compassion, but to proving to decrease symptoms of anxiety, depression, because when you can send yourself and others and everyone else the same level of compassion, it's a lot harder to feel anxious or depressed. Mm-hmm. Just making that, even if it's in your minds, making that connection with others is huge. But that's one of those things, we knew that, but now we have like fMRIs that are showing, specific parts of the brains, and we're naming it. So I was thinking about, what happens when science catches up. We have all these articles, like, a part of me is like, yeah, I already knew that, but then another part's like, oh, now I can talk about it more because it's valid. Like, why wasn't it valid before? If I felt it in my body, or I knew it, or it was part of my practice.
Well, and that's the hard thing, is that, like, so I go back and forth between, I was raised by a hippie. My background is like hippie woo-woo shit. So coming into yoga, my first experience with yoga was actually Kundalini, with the chanting, with chakras, with stuff that was very metaphysical. I started practicing. My first version of meditation was transcendental meditation.
Mine was too.
Yeah, so, and like when I was younger, in high school, I was practicing trying to have an out-of-body experience, and all this kind of shit.
That was my first time meditating, was doing the same thing.
Yes.
I did not.
I kind of think, I'm spitting everywhere. So I kind of think that I did have an out-of-body experience, but like I was able to travel, at least I thought that I was. Like I came out of my body and I was able to go out the window and see the road in front of my house and all of that. Anyway, but
I didn't do any cool stuff like that.
As an only child, like this is how I had to fill my time.
Yeah, an introvert only child. You were definitely had time to transcend time and space.
Oh my God, yes, so many thoughts. But so now that I feel that it's because I'm a yoga teacher, because I'm asking people to pay me money to teach them things.
Right.
I have this burden that I've put upon myself that I feel like I have to have research and science behind everything that I say.
I do too.
And however, though, once everybody's out of the room, I practice things from my chakras. And,
totally.
All this, and like the things that have no scientific backing whatsoever, I still do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I have that weird, like, it's almost, I talk a lot about this sort of like visceral feeling of pushback that I get from all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And that's one of them. There's this like, it's almost like the type of thing that'll create a tornado. Like I get this push of like, science has to be there. And then I have this push of like, yeah, but I feel the reality of, my energy body and the chakras and, all of this stuff. And I'm sure that you can see my aura and I'm sure that I can see yours.
I have the same exact problem, and I got really messed up in my thinking process when I read that book. We did the podcast on it, on the placebo effect. I was like, my head is going to explode, because it essentially boiled all of this stuff we're talking about down to, it might not actually matter.
Yeah.
And that, I still don't know what to do with that, but I do the same thing in the therapy setting too. It's like if I'm going to talk about an intervention or a book or a type of anything, I'm like, I feel the need to tell the person that this study was done and this study was done and it got this outcome. Well, an example is EMDR, so the eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Shit's amazing.
We talked about it, and it sounds like woo-woo. When I first described it on the podcast, it sounded like wizard magic, but a few years ago, people, not even that long ago, it's only been around since the 80s, people assumed, it was being used, but people assumed that it was in that woo context. But now we have all of these studies from VA hospitals and all of these other places that are essentially saying what all the people that experienced it knew, but now it's valid. So within the context of like science or social work or like the therapy world, something needs to be an evidence-based practice. So to be an evidence-based practice, you only need like 2 studies confirming that the thing works. So it could be funded by somebody, for one thing, like some specific company that makes EMDR books could sponsor 2 studies. So there's also that piece too. So like that comes back to the like, how much does it really matter? We want science. Science is good. We're not saying don't listen to go the opposite way and say the earth is flat and climate change isn't real. God. But like, yeah, like in the context of like woo woo and like yoga and all these things, like how much science do we really need? Why do we need to feel validated in that way?
And I think that some of this comes down to, at least for me, the biggest thing when I'm talking to somebody else about stuff is there potential that somebody's going to get hurt?
Yeah. It's almost like covering your ass a little bit too with some of the science stuff.
Yeah. Like number one, I really try to play by do no harm.
Yeah.
And there, so let's go, I'm going to swing sort of a different direction here in that we've got now some science and research that proves that not all yoga poses are good for you.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
We
like,
shouldn't all be doing headstands.
correct. And shoulder stand, which
Shoulder
was
stand.
terrible. I don't know if you're even able to do a shoulder stand
I
yet,
should
but
not, but let me tell you, I definitely did when I started yoga. Like, I did all that stuff because I wanted to look like I was good at Ashtanga. So
Right.
they'd go into, you know, shoulder stand,
And explain
headstand.
for our watchers and listeners why shoulder stand is not good for you.
Well, I have a little bit of a curve in my neck. You're supposed to have. Well,
He's got a rod up his spine.
Yeah, you can't. He doesn't have a.
But this is a
curve to his
lordotic
cervical
curve.
spine.
So one of the lordotic curves is your neck.
Yeah, it needs to be curved to support the weight of your head.
Because it's a shock absorber.
Yeah, so I had whiplash when I was 9, and then I got it again when I was 18. So my neck is. My fingers are a terrible example.
Your fingers are more curved than your neck.
Yeah, so I don't really have much of a curve to my neck. So if I'm in shoulder stand, I don't have the ability to support the weight that I'm putting on that vertebrae because I am immediately flattened out and
Yeah.
in a headstand or a handstand. So if I'm already flattened out and I don't have enough space between my vertebrae and then I put all of my weight into, say, a headstand, that's just pinching, that's compression. I mean, so we've got the little spaces between joints. The less of that you have, the more likely in your neck you are to actually literally fuse together. Your joints can fuse together if you run out of padding. Or, you know, in the case of knees, you know, it can just blow out and you have to get them replaced.
Right.
So,
I'm avoiding that.
but people will go into yoga and they think, it's yoga, it'll be fine. And then there have been cases of people that have had a stroke
Yep.
or broken their neck or I think some people have died.
People have died. Yeah.
From
And
doing these poses in a classroom setting because it's yoga and yoga is all
And
safe.
this is why we are so adamant about telling you to don't just do it because you think that you should. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't start every yoga class saying, okay, here are the contraindications to every single pose because you could die in this.
Right.
I don't want to have to say that.
Yeah,
But-
but nobody will want to come back if you're talking about how they're going to die every time.
Right. I mean, we don't really want to practice Shavasana.
No.
Horse pose. However, but that's the whole point is we don't want you to push it. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Right.
And there is science behind a lot of this stuff. Like if you are diabetic, if you have hypertension, if you're pregnant, if you've got glaucoma, if you've got detached retina, all of these things, there are a lot of things that you really shouldn't do.
Right. And women who are pregnant, if you had a yoga practice before you got pregnant, you're fine to do yoga, but you're going to need to modify. I think there's a lot of stuff, and we've maybe talked about this, maybe haven't. So within the context of prenatal yoga, it's great. It's a wonderful thing for women to do to help them have an easier birth, to have an easier time being pregnant. But I think not enough doctors know enough about yoga, so they might just say, yeah, go ahead, go to yoga class, do whatever. And
Right.
so if you don't really know things about the body and know things about the way some of these poses work, you're going to throw yourself into a class where you're doing actual damage,
Yes.
actual harm, because you've got, what is it, the relaxin, the hormone
hormone.
that makes your ligaments extra stretchy to make it easier to give birth. So you're already putting yourself in a position to be vulnerable to stretching shapes.
Yep.
Pregnant
women need strength.
You shouldn't be laying on your back for most of the things. You shouldn't really be doing like deep twists.
deep
But
twists.
if you don't specifically go to prenatal yoga or you don't have an instructor that knows what they're doing, it could be really easy to just like go, it's yoga, it's fine, it's safe, and this is gonna help me. So
Right.
I think that's where just bulking up the science and the evidence and the things can really help.
Yeah. Well, and I think that then the onus is on the yoga studios and the yoga teachers to educate themselves. I got super pissed and super offended when I first became a yoga teacher, and one lady that I talked to on the phone, she was super rude about it and said, well, you shouldn't be a yoga teacher if you don't know anything about anatomy. And at the time I was really offended because I do know something about anatomy. I've got a background in it, having a degree in anthropology, forensics, and so forth. And however, I've run across a lot of yoga teachers who have no anatomy experience,
Yeah, there are a lot of different teacher training programs out there.
And that's the problem, is that there are so many different styles of yoga that arguably don't need a whole lot of anatomy. Fair. But if you're going to let anybody come into your studio, then you need to be able to teach to that and give modifications and be able to talk to somebody in a realistic way, like about, okay, you're going to need to take some modifications because of XYZ thing that that you've got going on, and don't be judgmental of yourself, and don't, watch your ego and all of that.
That's probably the biggest practice.
It is, like, I mean, number one, like, it's, I don't mean to pick on pregnant women, but when you're pregnant.
They had it coming.
Why not? Nobody's safe in this episode, in this show.
Nobody likes them anyway. God. That's only what? Women are 51% of the United States?
Yeah, all right.
It's fine. No one will get offended by that.
No. But the thing is that, like, when talking to a pregnant woman, she's already going to feel vulnerable and all these hormones and all of that. So
people are probably touching her for no good reason.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, let me touch your belly. So you got to be able to talk to a pregnant woman in a certain way to not make her feel like she's a freak show for being pregnant. I mean, my God, it's pregnant women who have actually, like, gotten us where we are. All of these millions of years. Literally. So pregnant women are special and wonderful. So emotionally you might have to treat them all touchy and all that, but physically they're very tough and strong, and so they need strength.
Yes.
And but you need to be able to talk to them about that and not offend them and say, "Oh my God, you're so different. You're a freak."
Yeah. There's a lot of weirdness around pregnant women in a yoga practice or in just like the fitness world, where they're like, we now know if you were doing something before you got pregnant, you should continue to do it. Like if it's running or lifting weights or doing yoga, there's no reason not to do that thing. But people
do
get
it
all
till
like,
it doesn't feel right.
People get all weird about it, like,
yeah, you know your own body.
Weights, she's pregnant. Like we have more
God.
science now. What was the thing they thought that like women's uterus would it would
when
fall out when you're running?
Yes. Oh my God. Well, like the whole thing about like the term hysterical comes from the root word hyster. And so if you have a hysterectomy, they take out your uterus. Well, back in the day, Victorian era, women were considered hysterical at times. And when you became hysterical, it was thought that your uterus was actually traveling around in your body.
That's horrific. That's some Kafka level stuff.
Those effers wrote our original medical books. So, or not the original ones, but yeah, those people were writing medical books.
So science changes.
Thank God.
Science changes all the time, and we're constantly finding out that things we thought were true aren't true, and then we're finding out things that we thought were total woo-woo magic are real.
Yes.
So it's just a measurement tool, and it's constantly changing. It's just a way of measuring what we perceive as reality, and if you want to think about it in a yogic or a Buddhist context, reality is... I mean, it's all over the place.
Right now, honestly, right now, I feel like we're in a computer program that has been hijacked by somebody's, like, 12-year-old son.
Right, that was like, what would be funny? And then they just keep doing stuff, and they just keep blowing things up.
And then let's see what happens if you don't believe in vaccines, and you don't believe in the climate.
And if you thought the earth was flat.
And then you vote in this ridiculous person, and then we go back to believing that... Oh my God, like I can't even. Seriously, like this, the whole argument that we're living in a computer simulation, I feel it.
We're in an episode of Black Mirror, for sure.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, like at some point we're all just going to be in like it probably won't be black, it'll be like white open space, and we'll just be walking around like, was a simulation all the time.
I don't know if I would be like relieved. I'd be like, I knew it.
Yeah, I would too. I'd be like, I knew something was very, very wrong.
Yeah, but you know what? I feel good that science is finally backing up some stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm also working on being okay with having woo-woo and having some stuff. I think, again, it goes back to, at least for me, do no harm.
Right.
So I want the science to back up the stuff that really does need to have some backup to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that certain people, like some people really like to hear all the anatomy stuff and the sciencey stuff. I think it's fun to hear. However, I got to balance it because there are some times when it's like, oh my God, Berg, do we need to know the exact name of the muscle that we're working on right now?
And most people, few things happen. Some people in the context of a yoga class get intimidated by that, and they're like, I don't know what that means. What is this class above me? Like, should I not be here? Or they're like, this is gonna float out of my head forever. Or they just like don't hear you because they're like, this feels great, which is what we're going for in the first place. I think it comes down to that like validation. It's like, why do we always need to be validated?
Like, you know what? That's a good point. Like, I'm smart. I should be here. Let me tell you why. All the anatomy works.
Maybe that's it. Maybe some of it for at least us boils down to like imposter syndrome if you're in a yoga class or like in like a therapy session. I'm like, I need to tell them about the science, otherwise they'll never believe me. Like,
okay, and here's the thing is that they've already chosen to be in your, they've already given you the money.
Exactly.
They are here.
I know. Imposter syndrome.
They've already been bamboozled.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome is so stupid. Like this, I mean, if previous episodes have taught us anything about gurus and things like that, is that people don't care.
No, they don't.
Like, honestly, when I first started doing therapy, I was so worried that nobody was going to want to come to me because first, social work, there are like 3 essentially levels of experience. So you're a licensed social worker at the master's level. Then you can become an independently licensed social worker after a couple of years. Then you can become, if you want, a social work supervisor, so you can supervise other people. Okay. So I had it in my head that because I just have like this first one and not the third one,
then you're
that
a loser.
Nobody was gonna want to come to me for therapy.
I didn't even know there were 3 levels until you just said it.
Nobody does.
I just want a freaking therapist.
I had somebody, and a lot of people don't know the difference between a social worker and a psychologist and an LPC, and they don't really care because they care about you. I had somebody email me to schedule something, and she was like, "Dear Dr. Strawn," and I was like, oh, that felt really good, but I have to correct her. But thank you for assuming that we're all doctors. So she didn't care.
No.
She just assumed I was a doctor, and I was like, oh, what should I tell her? I'm not. Like, it was...
Love, Lauren, the social worker.
The social worker, and then just like a bunch of emojis.
The doctor of emojis.
Because I don't know stuff. I'm not a doctor. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of are the doctor of emojis.
Hey, thank you.
I'm going to start and stop this thing. Can you hold his foot for a second?
Thanks. Oh, man, that's some subluxation.
I don't know what happened to this guy.
Man. Yeah, he's definitely a guy.
Yes, he's
narrow
got
pelvis.
Yeah, he's got a very narrow pelvis. This is not giving birth.
Is it more expensive to buy a lady skeleton?
Yeah, because I don't know that there are very many. Because apparently...
We just assume all skeletons are men. Women can be whatever they want. Even a skeleton.
Well, that's not what I was going to say, actually. Because she's getting all feminist.
We can be whatever we want. Even a skeleton.
I'm a skeleton right now. No, actually, I mean, it is kind of because of the patriarchy, though. It's because... for centuries, we believed that women were such dainty flowers.
Yeah,
and
we're just small men.
that they can't dissect us. That's why all these anatomy pictures are all men, because for so long we didn't dissect women because they're probably subhuman and dainty and.
Guess what?
So
women
sacred.
Can be cadavers too.
That's right, damn it. Women can be cadavers too.
Dream bigger.
Aim high, ladies.
Be whatever you want.
You can be a skeleton.
You could be a cadaver. You could have somebody dissect you. The sky's the limit.
Truly. All right, so
aim high.
Okay, so did we talk enough about? Was there anything else that we need to talk about? Sciences.
I don't know. I think
Meadowhead. I can't read your language.
I
don't have my glasses on.
I don't know. I think we got to everything. I think what we always end up doing is we start with a topic and then we therapy ourselves into like finding the solution to all of our problems at the end. So I think we boiled it down to like a little bit of imposter syndrome might be part of it for at least professionals that are in fields where it's notorious for being like more woo-woo. Like I was reading before we started this article written by Deepak Chopra. Is that how you say it, Chopra?
Yeah.
And he was talking about how it really upset him. He's a scientist, but he also writes these books that are talking about more Eastern philosophies and more metaphysical things. And he was like, it really bothered me that I would get called like the king of woo-woo. He's like, I have science to back up everything, but like I talk about these other things that don't have science, so why am I less valid in this setting? So I think if even Deepak
no, beeping. Keep on talking.
If even Deepak Chopra is feeling the imposter syndrome, then I think it's a pretty universal thing.
Well, and I mean, Deepak Chopra. So being raised by a hippie, it's Deepak Chopra's transcendental meditation that I did when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know what I did. I don't even know where I found it.
Yeah, Mom had a Deepak Chopra book, and I was like, "Ooh, who's this guy?" And I mean, that was 30-some years ago, and
here we are.
Here we are. We will learn. Time marches on, because that's how it works.
Or does it? Is it bendy and fluid? Time is an illusion.
It is. I mean, and it all happens at the same time, based on what Stephen Hawking said.
Quantum physics makes my brain just hurt because I want to believe all of the things about it, and I can't. I think it's one of those things like a higher power. Like I don't think we can really fully conceive of whatever that thing is, and I feel like quantum physics is the same in my brain. Like I can't do it.
I love quantum physics. Like so if you've ever tried to, like, if you really want to try to get some of it, I recommend Stephen Hawking's books, Universe in a Nutshell, or the other one that all of a sudden just fell out of my head. Darn it.
There's a bunch by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes. He's a good one to read as well. I think that, because here's the thing.
Carl Sagan, did he talk about that? He talked about space a lot, but I feel like he got into some of that too, like these like parallel universes and things like that. So it's been around. It's just the more we learn, the more it's like, oh my god, it goes so deep.
Well, and some things are getting proven, and some things are still, floating out there and still working on them. But I think, physics and quantum physics and all of that. I think a lot of that stuff is similar to kind of what we've been talking about in this whole episode. Not only are we finally getting some answers to things, because as our technology gets better, we have the equipment to prove some things, but on top of that, I think we've also gotten past this requirement in science, this hubris where we feel like I have to make the language so complex so that you stupid people, you minions, you're going to think that I'm so smart and I'm right because you don't even understand the words I'm saying.
It's like untouchable.
Yes. And so when it comes to, this is why I like to teach anatomy, because your body shouldn't be a mystery to you.
No.
Your doctors don't have all the answers.
No.
A good doctor will tell you they don't have all the answers.
Right.
And so you can know things about your body. I mean, completely be a little bit leery of everything that you read online.
Yeah.
But find a good anatomy book, read some stuff.
Know the names of the bones and muscles, especially if you're an active person.
Yes.
So even if you can just talk about if you have a pain from an exercise you're doing or from running or something, just to be able to describe what you're experiencing if it's not normal and there's something that you should be changing in your patterns.
It's
in terms
knowable
of
information.
Your posture or whatever the thing is. Like, it shouldn't be mysterious to you. It doesn't have to be mysterious.
And it's the same thing with quantum physics. So if you seek out, like, again, Stephen Hawking and all these guys who wrote things in proper language that doesn't have to have all of this ridiculous, Latin. It can be understandable, and they put them they describe them in ways that I think that lay people, non-physicists can understand. And it's fun and interesting stuff.
I agree. I think academics get really caught up in being as verbose as possible when it's not necessary. It was always funny to me, like as I got further into grad school and I would write papers using Word, because Word will try to correct you if it doesn't think you're being succinct enough. So I'm doing like researcher speak in my papers, and it's like doing all the little
Like,
dotted
you don't
lines.
need all that shit,
Like,
Lauren.
it is dotted lining under like all these things, and just like trying to remind me to talk like a normal person instead of like, you know, adding in all this unnecessary stuff. Like, why do we need all the unnecessary stuff to validate us?
Yeah, and I do think that on some level it comes to imposter syndrome.
Yep.
People who are, you know, people who are trying to keep you out of having the information. If they're trying to keep you ignorant. I mean, I'll take this all the way back to the Roman Church, speaking in Latin, so that the normal people, the minions and the lower people.
Yeah, that's messed up.
It is. I mean, it's all about power and subjugation and all of that.
Yeah.
And if I keep people stupid, if I keep people stupid, then I can keep them underneath my foot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Educate yourself.
For real. We have all of the knowledge available to us at all of the time.
Yes.
It's just, it's filtering out the stuff that isn't real is a problem. Although I think it's getting, I don't know, is it getting better for people to discern? I feel like at least in terms of social media and things, like there have been like crackdowns on fake things, but I don't know how much you can do that. Like, because it's for people that are digital natives, which I didn't realize, but I am actually a digital native. I didn't think I was, but then I remember
You're so young.
They taught me how to use, I know, I'm like a baby. They taught us how to use computers in kindergarten, and I was like, oh, that's okay, that's a thing. But for people like that, it makes more sense to know, oh, this is obviously fake. Like, I can tell because of the way this image looks, it's really low quality or whatever. But people that didn't grow up using a lot of technology, or that maybe didn't go to college at all, might not have been given those same tools. So there's a lot of people that are falling for like scams and all these things now just because they didn't have the same access. So that's where it gets, I think, really...
Here's the flip side of that. So you've got the people who don't understand that something is fake.
Right.
Then on the flip side, I'm furious, and it goes to my NASA thing. So I follow NASA on Instagram and Reddit and some other places.
I follow them on Instagram too.
And I can't even tell you how many idiots respond to pictures posted by NASA saying,
they say they're fake.
That's photoshopped. Oh my God.
Like, where did you come from?
Oh my God. Now, some things are, and it will say, artist rendering of, you know, all of the universes next to each other. Yeah, we don't have cameras.
This is a model of a thing.
Yes. However, we have pictures of Mars. We have pictures of the sun. We have pictures inside of our own universe, our own solar system.
No, now
so there are plenty of people.
Backwards.
Oh my God, these are the people that believe in flat Earth.
Yeah, it usually is. They'll go on there. I've noticed that too because I follow NASA on Instagram, and they'll show a picture of like the Earth from space, and they're like, fake. Like, what?
I'm done.
How?
I can't.
I cannot.
Okay.
Let's move on to something happier, like a book or a rebel or whatever you want to do.
So we're going to talk about the Rebel of the Week. I decided upon the University of Tennessee because they took, so there was this kid, and I'm going to have pictures up and links and all that stuff. So there was this young boy who had, he wanted to support University of Tennessee, and he didn't have a t-shirt, so he drew his own, and it was a U and a T, and he put it on a piece of paper, and then he affixed it to his own shirt.
I love it.
Okay? And then he got bullied. Because people are assholes. And so what did the University of Tennessee do? They decided to make up a bunch of t-shirts with his drawing on it. And I cried. So thank you, University of Tennessee. And people are actually buying the t-shirt.
Yeah, I don't even know. It's football, right?
I mean, I think. I don't know.
Is it feetballs?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's the sports ball.
There's some sort of sport involved with it, and I think this time of year is football.
I think you're right. Yeah, I would get that shirt just for that reason.
Right. It's a lovely orange. So for all of you that love orange,
just in time for Halloween.
That's right. So thank you, University of Tennessee. I love it when big groups will help support the little guy, literally. And like, I mean, truly, like, this kid was being like the biggest fan by like,
I think it was
making his own
fantastic.
damn shirt. I mean, come on. So, there it is. Also, I guess at the same time, that boy could be the rebel as well. So both of them, all of them. Good job, kudos. At least there are some decent humans in the world.
Yes.
All right, now, book of the week. Please, somebody write us a theme song for Rebel of the Week.
It can be,
it could be anything. You could get out your old Casio keyboard.
Oh my god, somebody please do it. Do you remember that? There was like an animal sound on one of the buttons. I had that one in like 1998, and I was
and if you actually record yourself doing it, like a video of it, then we'll put you up there. I hope your Casio is small and pink. Please.
Or a keytar.
Oh my god, yes. I like that. That'd be good.
Does anybody still have a keytar? Get it.
If you do,
go to the thrift store.
I was just going to say that. Go to the thrift store, make a band.
Just for us.
Yes, you could be the Yoga Rebels band. Totally, for reals.
Maybe we need to like cut down just this part and like have this on the Patreon too. Important.
Yes. We need a band.
We need a band and we don't want to do any of the work.
No, this is like,
we got enough to do.
This is delegating. And it's the whole thing about what we talked about last time. Like, what's your passion? Well, my passion is not being a band.
Know when to say that you're not an expert and delegate to someone else.
No, because I'm not an expert. The only thing I can do with a Casio is push the button that makes the sound. The tempo or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about Book of the Week. The Tao of Pooh.
I love it.
Oh my goodness. So, this book by Benjamin Hoff is so close to my heart. Number one, I mean, of course I grew up with Winnie the Pooh. And one of the things that I love about Pooh is that he simplifies things. He takes a complex human emotion or something ridiculous that adults do. Mm-hmm. Winnie the Pooh, truly, I think, like if you haven't seen the newer movie with, okay, I can't think of the actor's name, but he played Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just like I can't think of her name. Thank you, Ewan McGregor. He plays Christopher Robin, all grown up. And, oh my god, so I own it. I cried. But anyhow, so Pooh takes these things that humans do, and then he sort of renders them down into like simple things and then pushes it back at you. In like in 5 words, he can tell you, this is what you're doing. Why are you doing it? You're being ridiculous. Do something simpler. You know, so one of my favorite quotes of Pooh is, nothing to do, what a wonderful thing.
Oh, I love the part about the busy backsons. Don't be a busy backsoon.
Yes! So he's telling us just to like, I mean, he's the one that tells us to relax and take a break and meditate, eat some honey, which has antibacterial, antimicrobial properties. So in the Tao of Pooh, the author is telling us, so it's very similar to the other book that I brought up, The Dharma of Star Wars. So this author is describing Taoism by paralleling it with the lessons that we learned from Winnie the Pooh, and it's just delightful.
It's sweet.
Yes, and it has the same drawings that we are familiar with from the Pooh stories, the Pooh books, and it's written with Winnie the Pooh talking to him as well. And so, like in the very beginning of it, he's writing. The author is writing, and then he starts to have a conversation with Winnie the Pooh. Like, Pooh is like, what are you doing? And knocks over his ink and all that stuff. So it's delightful. I highly recommend it. And you said there was the
Day of Pooh, day being T-E of Piglet. Sorry, it's Piglet. And it looks really similar to that, but I think it's yellow and it has Piglet on the front of it and a little suit of armor. It's basically just a follow-up, and it gets a little bit into, one of my most favorite things about that book is it talks about how Piglet is a very small animal, but because he's very small, he is very brave. So it just nails like all of these like human things that we worry about unnecessarily, and it just takes Taoism and it takes cuteness and it just makes it so simple and so digestible, and it just makes you feel good to see I think A.A. Milne was the one that wrote the books, but I
Yes.
don't remember if he did the illustrations too. But
I can't
they have
remember.
the same illustrations, and so it has like that nostalgia piece too. It's just they're quick reads, but they make you feel good. I think.
Yeah.
And it just puts a lot of things into perspective, and yeah, it explains Taoism in a way that, I mean, you're not going to get if you try to read like
actual Taoist books.
like an ancient Chinese text on it. You're going to be like,
Yeah.
what?
Just keep it simple, because it's supposed to be.
And now you're reading the wind?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I am. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes to the other thing, that one concept that's come up for me a lot in the past few weeks is that I've been taught a lot of yoga lessons by people who are not, and Buddhist. I've been taught a lot of lessons by people who aren't necessarily yogis.
Yeah.
You know,
That's usually how it works.
so
The people that think they know the most end up getting clouded if they're not careful.
Yeah. So yeah. So I've gotten a lot of lessons from my non-yogis.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, like rest and all of that.
Ugh.
Whatever. Like the hardest thing. All right. Well, thank you for watching and listening. We should probably be better at telling people to like and subscribe and to follow us on things.
Do all the things. So if you're wherever you're listening or watching, if there's an option to like or subscribe,
Please
do that,
do.
because it helps us out. It helps to boost
algorithms.
Yeah, it helps us with the algorithm, so we get more viewers or listeners or whatever the thing is.
And it makes us feel better.
And it's like, yeah.
It boosts our dopamine for a second.
Yeah, give us some hits of dopamine by liking. Our podcast.
Feed our addiction.
Yeah, don't just like the dumb pictures. The dumb pictures are great. You should like those too, so never mind.
Right. But until next time,
Yeah.
keep the rebellion alive.
Yeah, love you, bye.
Bye.
Oh, poor guy, he's missing a tooth. You should,
Get a gold filling?
yes, that's 100% what I was gonna say.
I know. Hold on. We'll both sit here and hold him. Hold on. Oh,
Did we fit in here with that? Yeah, we fit in here. Oh god! Ah! Put his hand around me.
You just said you didn't want to get Me Too'd by Jack. I think Jack's getting Me Too'd.
That's what I meant.
Oh.
I didn't want to be the one doing it.
Oh.